Hey, CWF Universe, it's me, G, again, and I got two wonderful guests today talking about some really interesting stuff. But first off, yes, this is an episode of Backstage Pass. Things have calmed down a little bit, and while we're all sheltering in place, we'd like to thank you for not only supporting us, but also listen to us right now, which is be it on the podcast or if you're downloading us on Anchor. Before I begin, I want to thank some of our Patreons who have been donating at the $3 or more tier. That would be Jimmy Mai, Magical Senpai, Randy Gerns, and of course, our one big super patron, which is getting their name out here. Daniel Christian Vanta, thank you. Your funds have been going a long way to keeping our wonderful, crazy, super strange organization afloat. But hey, that's enough about me. That's enough about the Patreon stuff. I want to go ahead and get right to it, introducing our guests. First off, coming back after a 1-year hiatus. They told me that. I didn't remember it. Ellie. Hey, Ellie.
Yo.
Yes, a year and a week.
And you know him, you might love him, but it's the one and only Ian, our quintessential smarky smark. And the smarky.
Yeah, that's me.
So before we go ahead and address today's topic, I got to do some catching up because the two of you did some really cool things that I think our audience at home would be very interested in hearing about. First off, for those who weren't there when Ellie first had to step away from the podcast, she moved on to do actual professional wrestling training.
Real wrestling.
The real wrestling. And her, along with CWF alumni Marco Mania, have been cutting a real good swath in the Bay Area scene.
Yeah, especially Marco, who is now one half of the Wrestling Warzone Tag Team Champions with his Glamorous and Fabulous Enterprises staple. And he is managed by another CWF familiar face, the voice of Northern California, Donovan Troy.
I see him less as a CWF familiar face and just a wrestling familiar face.
Very true.
But how about yourself, Ellie? What's it like? I mean, we could be on this all day, and believe me, I'd love to go at it all day and all. But I just want to ask, what's it like to transition from somebody who hasn't really done or be in wrestling and then just go full deep end into this?
It's been really strange. I really can't articulate the number of ways in which it has completely transformed my life. Like my self-confidence, my feelings of belonging to a community and a team. Like I felt that with CWF, but it's completely different when I'm actually putting myself through like physical pain and struggle with other people too. My body is completely different. Like I'm down 60 pounds in the last year.
Shit,
I'm now doing like, I'm going on 2-mile runs almost every day. Despite the lockdown, I live right across from a park. So it's actually really easy for me to go out and do a 2-mile run in like 45 minutes. And like, I never thought I was capable of any of this stuff. So that's been wild, but also it's really changed the way that I watch wrestling. And it's less about like spotting botches and more about like every time I see something that I can do, I pop for it. Like nothing pops me now like a snapmare. Whenever I see somebody do a snapmare, you didn't see it a lot in WWE, but it happens all the time in AEW, especially on AEW Dark when they've got a bunch of the like local indie guys doing jobbing jobs. Every time somebody's putting the snapmare, I'm just like, oh, you're gonna follow it up with a chin lock? Yeah, oh yeah. So
I mean, I don't want to say relate because I'm not into it, but I really love how whenever you get really into something, like passionately into something, surprisingly you get less critical of it. And you start appreciating things that you don't really notice when you were part of as we say in the roller coaster enthusiast fandom, the GP or general public. Like now that I've been around a lot of wrestling and indie wrestling, I love an arm drag.
Oh yeah.
Like an arm drag. It's like, you know what? I love it. It's like salami on a sandwich. You just put it on anything.
Arm drag
nice
takedowns too, especially.
That's what I was gonna say. Arm drag takedowns, when done right, perfect,
Mwah.
beautiful.
So I've been doing this thing every time I watch a match, like if I'm watching the shows I follow weekly, or I'm watching a pay-per-view, or I'm watching some old indie thing. I've been watching a lot of Beyond Wrestling lately because a bunch of my favorites from AEW did a lot of work for them. But I love watching matches and thinking to myself, so far I can wrestle this, so far I can wrestle this, so far I can wrestle this, so far I can wrestle this. And then somebody will do like a Hurricane Rana and I'm like, okay, so I can take that, but I can't give it. So I could still kind of wrestle this. It's just that, and then like the more things progress, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I don't know that one, and I'm officially out of my league.
Yeah, so this is the part in the match where I'll sit in the turnbuckle and get stomped on. I can do that.
Oh yeah, I can sell my arm real good.
Ooh. But it's wonderful. It's I don't want to say nostalgic to hear your voice again here, but at the same time, I just love hearing your journey. For those at home, Ellie blesses all her followers on social media with her wrestling journey, and it's not always the good. There's a lot of bad.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some and most surprising of all, whenever you take a journey, the mundane.
Yes.
And it's just really amazing to watch your journey. So I feel partly responsible for this. I'm sorry, but as long as you're having fun, go for it.
I didn't watch like a single episode of any wrestling ever before I did CWF for the first time. And it was you saying that I needed to look at Lacey Evans that got me started watching NXT. And then I started watching Raw, and then I started watching SmackDown, and now I spend every waking moment.
Rabbit hole.
Yeah, like it's actually so intense for me that I have a rule in my household that I'm not allowed to think or talk about wrestling after 10 p.m. because if I get too into it, then I'll like fixate on it. And I've got this like anxiety brain that goes in a loop and then I can't sleep. So I've had insomnia over wrestling.
Not wrestling, but me too. Me too.
So let's also, I want to transition over to Ian. Ian, while you weren't taking suplexes, you were also part of something really cool yesterday that was advertised on the CWF, which was a big 9 hour?
We went for over 12 hours. We started at 11 in the morning and we went till midnight.
Wow.
Cool. Adding more big numbers, good. A big 12-hour charity stream for Hope from Home, which is a charity. Actually, why don't you tell us about the charity foundation?
So it's a charity foundation that's going out for COVID-19 relief. It's been organized by the World Health Organization, United Way, Red Nose Day. We set a goal of $1,000. We raised $730. If you don't mind, our donation link is still active. I could post it right now in the chat if anybody wants to. That's
now go. Yeah, shoot. Yeah. Send that link, please. I'm gonna go. No, Ian, you can't go ahead and raise money against COVID-19.
So
that doesn't sound like a worthy cause at all.
So the cool thing about it was I grouped together with a bunch of friends who I used to be. Well, I used to do the podcast with them, but I'm still their sort of producer, even though I'm states away. It was with my team Weebspeak. Well, it's really Hades' team. And we had a lot of fun. We played things like Dead by Daylight late in the evening. We had a Monster Hunter stream, which GU popped in for during the Most Wanted board shenanigans, which was absolutely fantastic and awesome. I did a little bit of Mario Kart, and I also did Animal Crossing earlier in the morning. We played Monopoly and Uno via PS4. It was a lot of fun. And I have a lot of things I now need to do that were met because people donated money.
Yes, there was
Such
one that you've shared with. Hey, Ellie, thank you for leaning in on that one for me. You know what? I was gonna do it, but you beat me to the punch.
So, I mean, I'll start with the biggest one. My fiance Luluco is going to do drag makeup on me on stream. I'm also now I have to read all of Golden Kamui, which she won't stop talking about, and I'm going to read the first volume and review it on stream. And then there's just a bunch of other things that are torturous, like we're all going to get together for 8 hours one day and play Fortnite on stream. It's all like great stuff. I gotta say, Hades is a real sport, though. He is fantastic. The dude is great and wonderful, and now he has to cosplay Powerline and take it to a convention. So,
Yo,
yeah, and he will look legit as Powerline, like dead serious. So, really excited for that. Excited for the photo shoot or the 4-hour stream he has to do as Powerline as well. We're just like, unfortunately, $70 away from the photo shoot, and then $200 away from him having to do Powerline TikToks for 3 months, 2 times a week.
Oh, you kids and your TikToks.
Oh,
I gotta ask, whose idea was it to put you in drag as a benchmark? So you did it. So you volunteered yourself.
So literally, when we were coming up with the incentives, at first I have like a ton of video game ones on there just because like I need to start streaming more. This is a way for me to get through some of my catalog, also do some stupid stuff, buy some games that are bad, that are cheap, and play those as well. But I started realizing that there wasn't enough like things that were geared towards me doing some things on stream that I would either A, be a little out of my comfort zone, or B, just like things that I could do in order to make certain people who had other incentives, which were extravagant, like Hades' Powerline incentive, to match something like that. So at like 275, I raced whatever game was there, and I'm all like, you know what? Fine, whatever. I'm just like, my fiance gets to put me in drag on stream. And then if we hit 800, she can choose whatever crossplay I'm going to do first, and then I'll do that on stream too. Sure, why not?
May you feel liberated and empowered when you do.
Oh no, I'm like, she's been working on stuff makeup wise for a little while, and I mean that just means I get to be an even better test dummy for some of the things she wants to try. I mean, I'm cosplaying Hubert from Fire Emblem Three Houses at some point. My eyebrows are going to have to go away because he doesn't have any.
You're going to get very well acquainted with a glue stick or a razor.
Oh yes,
glue stick, yes.
One or the other.
Glue stick, glue stick, safety razor. You're gonna learn about that color balance with the little big orange. You're gonna have a nice little orange thing right here going on. But before we continue, I want to go ahead and acknowledge the CWF Green Room. Hey, looks like Ryan's here. Tommy Wrestling Federation. He's been putting you over about how you accidentally ran 2 miles, Ellie.
Yes, we run together. For those who might not know, Tommy Wrestling, aka Ryan, is my IRL husband. So we went running together, and I finally used an app that tracks how far you go, and turns out it was 2 miles. Whoops.
Oh no, I ran too much. So Daniel's in the chat. Hello, Trisha's in the chat. Great to see you. We got some great viewers. Love it.
People.
Really.
Miss you all.
We all miss. Well, I just miss people in general.
That's me. That's me. That's me. The moment we had to cancel Daikon, I was just like, oh no. Now.
Oh my god! Don't. That was gonna be this weekend. Don't remind me.
I know.
Son of a bitch.
Nobody was more excited for Daikon than me. Okay, nobody was more excited for Daikon than me.
I'll put money on that because Ellie was messaging me. Ellie was messaging me. He's like, "Yo, Gerardo, I got some ideas," and I said, "How about these ideas? Ooh, let's mix them together. Ah, shit, these are an idea. We get in the chat, we're talking it out. Holy shit, we got an idea. We got an angle. So
good. And now
we got an angle. Stuff. But that's a transition. I don't want to say a good transition because it implies that but it's a transition. For anybody who has had dipped a toe in the wrestling world, you'll know that COVID-19 and the shelter in place mandate has really changed wrestling. Unlike other sports events like basketball and baseball, where they just cancel a good move, many wrestling federations such as AEW and WWE have done, and indie promotions. I know East Bay Pro did some before things got really bad. We're doing limited capacity shows or empty arena shows. And it's really brought to light how integral the live audience is. And by subtracting them from the equation, it's like filming a musical or filming a play or taking the audience. Actually, no. If you take the audience out of a play, it's still the same. But it's that vibe where you pretty much have changed the medium. So
I have to agree completely.
Ellie, since you've been more than waist deep in watching all these feds, and coming from the perspective of somebody who's a lot more in the expertise than myself, where do you see the changes shift the most?
Oh man, well, having studied wrestling now as far as how to put a match together, this is something I did not know about before I started wrestling, so stop me if you heard this one. But, matches have a format, and that format includes heat. That format includes a hope spot, a moment where the babyface is like trying to rally and fight back. It has a shine. And like, when you don't have an audience to clap for you or cheer for you or boo you, suddenly all of that changes. And I know some of the wrestlers on these like major promotions that have been doing these empty arena shows have still been either working around this by like going to pose or engage with an audience member, realize there's nothing there, and then like acknowledge that. Or I know a couple weeks ago,
that's what he did.
Yeah, oh God, I love Colt Cabana. Another one that comes to mind is the Miz and Morrison doing their like back and forth where they cut to the audience and it was just them in different costumes pretending to be different people, different tag teams, and the bacon costumes. It took me a second. I was like, what? Oh no. So like there's creative ways that you can do this, but I can't help but think about all of the new debuts on AEW, the Exalted One, Matt Hardy, who's, he's on my Mount Rushmore, as they say. And Nia Jax's return this week on Raw, and how different that would have been with a pop.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was saying Bianca, who moved up to Raw as well, just like to like all, and I agree, all these things that like would have been completely different. Mind you, there had been some sort of audience in the background. Like Matt Hardy was still like chanting delete in Daly's place, and you couldn't hear him because he wasn't mic'd up, but like you could hear in your brain the audience, if they were there, chanting delete with him. And it was so sad.
I was chanting it at home, I'm not gonna lie. But I mean, yeah, even before we started canceling shows at East Bay Pro, we had one final show just as things were really starting to heat up. There were a few confirmed cases in the Bay Area. Shelter in place had not been instituted yet in the Bay Area. And we were running one final show, and this was so nuts because every other promotion was canceling their shows. So we actually got Jacob Fatu and Zicky Dice, who are major, to come and perform at East Bay Pro because their other bookings in the area canceled. And they were just hungry for what they knew was going to be their last chance in the ring for a long time. And so we had all of our students and support staff were wearing gloves. The refs were wearing gloves. We wiped down the ring after every match. We actually made it a meme. Like we had taking care of business and like clean up, everybody do your share. Like we had different songs playing in between matches to like make a joke out of it. There was a coughing spot. Zicky coughed on his opponent, which was really funny. And since I'm working as a manager and I'm a babyface manager, I go by Elvira and I manage several different tag teams, including the Dream Warriors and Christian Sky and Victor Von Richter, who have just reunited as a tag team. And so I was out there accompanying them to the ring. And usually the first thing we do is just high fives all up and down the aisle, you know, and they were already saying no handshakes, which to start with, that's crazy in wrestling because you always start and end by greeting everyone with a handshake. So we were, you know, spocking it instead. So we were like, I was trying to get the kids in the audience to elbow bump me. And it was so surreal. And then I had to go backstage afterwards and wash my elbow.
Phantom high fives next time. Phantom high fives.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought I was going to make the elbow bumping work. Finger guns.
Finger guns.
Patty cake. Just patty cake. No contact patty cake.
No contact patty cake.
But Ellie brought up a really good point about how the structure of the matches just, I don't want to say come undone, but they are more visible when you take the crowd out. For chat, if you can, there's this amazing YouTube channel called Renegade Cut, and they did a video on the empty arenas. And they talk about how there's a lot of stuff in wrestling that only exists in wrestling. So when the baby face is down and they start slapping the mat, right? To get the crowd all warmed up, because that's the hope spot. You see in AEW, they'll do it. They'll still do it out of instinct, or like when Nikki Cross is like, come on, and she's trying to rile up her tag partner. It's a lot weirder without a crowd. But the most concerning thing about these empty arena matches, which I think is just holy shit that they're doing this, is how wrestlers need to work fast.
Yeah.
Because they cannot communicate with as much.
Yeah, they're not allowed to sit there and like go to a rest hold and whisper something in between each other's ears, because in an empty arena, even in the WWE Performance Center, that sound carries. You will hear that. So instead, they have to, it's sort of like a spot fest match where they have to treat it like spot to spot to spot to spot, but there's still the wrestling and inner working in between all of that, which is absolutely fascinating. And I mean, with WrestleMania, I didn't feel like there was a bad match on the card. Like, there were boring matches that like I personally wasn't invested in. But as far as the way things go, those matches still operated well. Those matches were still followed through well. Like, they still worked. I didn't care about Baron Corbin. I didn't care about Bobby Lashley and Aleister Black. I didn't care about those. But, like, those matches were still decent or good. They still executed well for the situation and circumstances that they were placed into.
I think the fact that no one has gotten hurt with this hyper aggressive, faster style is just ultimate paramount of like how good these wrestlers are. And it's, I could only imagine it would be like me trying to do magic blindfolded or something. I can't even think of the right, like, we're doing CWF and the sound system cut.
Well, I mean,
that's happened though.
Oh yes.
I mean, like, the only person I see who's gotten injured, I don't even know if this injury was legit, but Britt Baker got busted open this evening. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't watched it. Sorry. I apologize, but I mean, like, I don't know if she like I don't know where the blood was coming from, but there was blood.
Well,
they were still able
poor
to finish
Brit.
the match.
I hope her teeth are okay.
From the looks of it, they were fine.
But
Well,
let's
as long
talk.
as her precious teeth. You know?
Let's talk about something where you could argue might be. I don't want to say an improvement, but at least a lateral move, and that's the promos in empty arena.
Oh man, yeah, that's its own beast.
Where
John Cena's promo on SmackDown was the best promo that John Cena has given in literal years, and most of it was because of hokey camera work. Because of the fact it was pre-taped.
But I think it's just really interesting to see these promos in an empty arena for over a year on the Backstage Pass. We've always taught every wrestlers come in where they share their story about doing a promo at Fanime or at AX. They talk about, oh, the crowd wasn't feeling this, so I heard it and I shifted gears. Now we don't have that element, but at the same time, these promos, like watching these promos in the middle of the ring in an empty arena is bringing me back like drama class in college.
That's what it either has to sell or it's not going to. And like, because there's no crowd, it has to sell for everybody at home. And in the most case of like the promos that were airing, at least before WrestleMania, from what I watched, a lot of them seemed to really hit the mark, which was good.
What's your take on this?
Oh, me? Well,
yeah.
I'm used to giving promos into an echo chamber now because as a wrestling trainee, I have homework on giving promos, and it's usually pretty cut and dry. But because I'm being told to practice so often, I'm practicing literally everywhere. And sometimes I will promo at my phone, and I will promo in the shower, and I will promo in the car. I will promo at everything and nothing. I promoted at my cat the other day. So, I'm used to not having immediate feedback, but when you are doing it live and you get the feedback, you can shift gears, like you were saying, G. So it's like, how do you know if you're going down a rabbit hole of nobody cares, this is boring? How do you know if you're going, like, I only know because I've been recording myself and watching it back. So yeah, I have a couple vignettes in the works actually, and yeah, they've needed some editing.
As a competitor who had to shift gears from his entrance to the first moment that he was about to speak, I know that situation all too well.
But
it was, I mean, like,
we talking mag?
Yeah, and in an empty arena. Yeah, we talking mag. And in an empty arena, I wouldn't have shifted in direction because I didn't have that person screaming at me, Fanime reject. Like, to be real, if I didn't ask that guy what he had said and I just tried to, because there was nobody in the audience, I would have just continued on with what my original promo was going to be, which was going to be walking over everybody at MagWest. That's all it was going to be. I was just going to talk about how I was going to break everybody's necks, beat up everybody, and then leave.
I at the very least, at the very minimum, I think that this has to, like, this phase in all our lives needs to be part of some sort of big wrestling history textbook, just because, because you getting the anime?
My
is it the comic
favorite textbook?
Is it the comic history of wrestling? Yes. Yo, chat.
It's so weird to have read it for the first time after AEW is the thing, though, because the last page, it's like the last couple of pages are like, and then there's Kenny Omega who's making waves in Japan, and I'm like,
If only you knew.
Right? So I'm looking forward to volume 2 because I assume there will be one in another, I don't know, 5 years.
Because a lot of the time, whenever we talk about how X industry is going to survive, it's always like, how are they going to bring in money, or how are they going to handle an X amount of weeks and months, please weeks, of not of no customers coming in. But this is one of the few times where we have to talk about how an art form presents itself at its core. Because like movies, you got home release. Broadway is doing they're just filming their shows, which you should have been doing a long time ago. God damn it, please.
So that we didn't have to pirate things off the internet. Just let me pay for my gosh darn Hades Town, please.
I'm looking at you, Hamilton.
It's gonna happen next year, right? Finally.
Yeah.
Thank you, Disney overlords.
Okay. Let's see.
Anyway,
video games
at its core.
Yeah, wrestling at its core had to just adopt and jettison a lot of its tropes just to be presentable, and some of those changes put their wrestlers at more risk, like what we talked about with faster matches and stuff. So I just think this is really interesting. I know both companies, AEW and WWE, have done two different things. WWE is committed to the empty arena, while AEW likes to have the wrestlers in the stands.
And you know what? I actually like the latter versus the former, because we get these weird, wacky moments like Sammy Guevara stealing a microphone from the ring announce table to sing Judas as Chris Jericho walks out.
And then getting the words wrong.
And also getting the words wrong. And like, he's a decent singer if he tries, but he's also like fudging things up for probably on purpose, because who cares?
Yep.
And then you've got scenes in between matches like Shawn Spears and MJF, who are betting on matches, and then Tony Schiavone wanting to get in on it. Like, all of that stuff is hilarious. It's all great. There was a moment on Dark, I think, like last week, where Hikaru Shida got in Britt Baker's face, which is what led to their match this week. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, dude.
And
like,
Britt Baker took out her shoe and was like, get you.
Did you guys see the Being the Elite episode where it's all the wrestlers, how they're coping, and it's just Luchasaurus looking really sad beating up a dummy?
No,
yes, it's so good. He gets into, I guess, what is either like a tanning thing or a salon or like a sauna thing that he has in his house, and he sits in it for a bit, and then he gets out and he walks up to the dummy. He's all like, I think the dummy's name is like Bill or something. He's all like, we do this all the time. I'm just not feeling it today.
Oh,
like he's just lethargically slapping at it.
It's really hard to stay motivated. I gotta say, like, what do you do when you have nothing to lift? What do you do?
I'm sort of been in the same like rut, and watching wrestling clips has been helping me. I'm actually one of the things that I'm going to be doing here soon, this is a little off topic, is start watching Hot Ones, because I've never seen it before. And I caught like a couple of videos of like how he interviews, and I'm like, ooh, I want to understand that more. Maybe that could help me with my CWF, like finding out things about myself CWF wise, or just myself personally. So
I think what is adding an empathetic element to this is how a lot of wrestlers are cut off from the performance that makes them happy, just like how the three of us are cut off from conventions.
Yes, very much so. Or in my case, both.
Yeah, you Alec, I could only imagine you, because you often express on your post and how one of the things you love about class is, even if you don't make a lot of progress, the fact that you take a lot of fulfillment out of it. So when that's gone, how do you find yourself like trying to stay engaged and trying to stay sharp in your craft?
So I think most wrestlers have one, but if not, everybody at East Bay Pro in the academy at least has one. We have notebooks where we've written down all of the moves that we've learned and the drills that we've done and the repetitions, numbers of things that we've done. And I've just been reviewing my notebook, and I've been wrestling the Invisible Man in my living room, you know, things like, okay, I'm going in, I dodge your lockup, and then I lock up with you, and then I take the chin. And so just, stuff like that. And so obviously I can't do a ton of moves because I can't bump. I could probably bump on my bed. I haven't actually tried. I don't know if it's a good idea because I don't want to have to deal with buying a new mattress or a new bed frame in a pandemic, or going to the hospital.
Wise. That's also wise.
So I've been, playing it kind of safe, but at least I can like move my arms, close my eyes, visualize what's going on. Been cutting a lot of promos, been watching a lot of wrestling. My trainer, Rick Luxury, Wrestling Personified, has been giving us a bunch of assignments. So actually our assignment over the weekend was to watch both nights of WrestleMania and grade every match/segment an A through F rating, and write some comments about what we liked or disliked about it. So I have all of that now that I can access, and it's interesting to compare notes, like literally compare notes to see what my classmates liked and didn't like. And then we get into discussions. Another thing that's been really, really helpful is there is a Facebook group for Snake Pit Pro Wrestling and their academy, and they have very graciously opened their gates to wrestlers and managers and refs and valets and such from all over the world. And people are giving seminars in there for free, just out of the goodness of their hearts when they have free time. I've gotten to ask Al Snow questions.
Throw me an invite.
Snow.
Throw me an invite. I want to catch every manager seminar I possibly can.
So they are very picky about who they take. If you are not currently in a relationship with a company, they will not let you in.
Okay,
but but if you do have a connection to that and a name you can drop, I will absolutely get you an invite.
I wish I could. I don't currently. Like, this was one of the things I was going to be doing after finding my next job, and then quite literally the pandemic hit, and I was all like, well, I guess this is on hold until probably the end of the year, and then I get to start learning. And
I will say,
what I can do for you is link you to the seminars that they've been linking to, because there have been some really fabulous seminars that I've been watching recently. Cody Rhodes had a really good one. Daniel Bryan had a really good one.
I'd love to listen to Cody talk any day of the week.
Matt Stryker had a 3-hour seminar that I have found incredibly, like, just completely life-changing, mind-changing, about his experiences. And I mean, I'll post some links in our group chat later, and then maybe, whoever's managing the CWF social media can share those around if that seems appropriate as well.
I know that Al Snow, you could find, like, I actually found the big playlist of his giant lecture, but that was years ago. Fascinating stuff. But hey, let's get to the meat and potatoes. Ellie, outside of being wonderful and gracious with this episode, one of the main reasons we are on Backstage Pass is because Ellie wants to gush about a few things that she saw. Well, actually, that we all saw.
Yes.
At WrestleMania.
And Ian
and I are more than happy willing ears. But before that, want to say hi to AJ, Pinky Death, hello, and hello, Daniel. Yes, Bray Wyatt was excellent with the empty arena. One of the very few wrestlers who could really. When Bray Wyatt spoke in the empty arena, it gave his promos like that it had an element of gravitas to
I was
it.
actually,
like,
sorry. I was actually,
it just,
like, it just, sorry. It was actually, 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 like, it just, sorry Cody's promo when they did the first empty arena show at Daly's Place. If you've never seen it, go watch it. I've never been simultaneously gripped and punched in the heart at the same time, because that's literally what that whole promo was.
Mm.
And it's like the whole thing's on YouTube, so you have no excuse not to watch it. And Bray Wyatt just like instead though flips my brain when he's in the empty arena, and he excels by like pulling on my mind in different directions.
But hey, Elliot, tell us what you want to gush about.
Okay, so where to begin? So I've always been a fan of the supernatural and the larger-than-life aspect of wrestling. It's what draws me to anime. It's what draws me to wrestling. It's the same thing, you know. In fact, I really was desperate. I wanted to be an anime, like, magical girl character for the longest time, and I'm kind of trying to get my character into that box more because it's what I wanted to do as a wrestler. But everybody was like, oh, that's indie bullshit. You can't have telekinesis powers. You can't teleport. Nobody's going to sell for you force choking anyone. And yet, here we are with WWE producing not one, but two just beautiful, polished, well thought out. I mean, can you call them matches? I don't personally think of them as matches so much as like extended video packages. I will admit that as I was watching first the Boneyard match and then later with the Firefly Funhouse match, I was like, okay, but then they're going to cut to wrestling, right? And when it didn't happen, I wasn't even disappointed. Because it's so much the psychology, and both had distinctly supernatural elements in distinctly different ways. And the Undertaker, who's been this supernatural character for, you know, decades, somehow brought his biker taker into that. And I thought it was so super clever how the Boneyard match was basically structured to give Taker a match that didn't make him feel like an old guy who's slow moving and past his prime. Like it really reframed the rivalry and let us focus on the story, the emotional intensity. And I read that all of their dialogue throughout the match was improv. And so it still keeps that spirit of wrestling as an art form, but also, you know, works with a little bit of Hollywood magic to make sure everything is flattering and ultimately pushes the storytelling abilities because, you know, if there were fans in an arena, teleportation gimmicks would not work. But when Taker appeared behind AJ Styles, everybody popped. And every time John Cena was cut to being in a different outfit and the scene changed and the setting changed and Bray Wyatt's costume changed, I popped. It was awesome.
Same.
I was so emotionally and mentally invested in everything that was going on. Yeah.
Let's talk about each one at a time, because what I can really appreciate about both is they both had huge distinct flavors. First off, Undertaker, for our viewers at home, the Undertaker Boneyard match was filming lasted from 8 p.m. to 5, and the barn was built over the course of, I want to say, 5 days or 2 days. Like, they built that barn up from scratch. And I gotta say, the Undertaker match made me feel like a kid.
I think that it was designed to do that exact thing.
I felt like a child in the best way possible because when they had the Boneyard in my mind, I was like, oh, please don't make this like House of Horrors or the New Day compound or the New Day compound fight, which
worried about that for sure.
Which was just like a fight, but they just changed the camera. I didn't want that. So when I heard the soundtrack was heard, and then you hear the movie sound effects whenever they punched, I'm like, oh, is this like that pop, like the part So I was loving it, but the part where I was sold when I was sold, like, this is it, done, best thing ever, best Undertaker match in a long time, was when Gallows and Anderson went, "Hey, dead man," and you hear the Spanish guitar like, doo-doo-doo. And then I popped for that, and then the Druids,
It was great.
They had their own buddy, but why? How? Were they always there? Who backlit the bar?
Why not?
Why are the Druids attacking the Undertaker? I thought the Druids worshipped the Undertaker.
Who cares?
So I like that match as well. I mean, I'm gonna speak a little bit on a critical side. I like that match, but there was one thing that I just felt like it was missing from that match, and it was a great through line of like one of the promos that Taker had before the match, where I think he said something along the lines of like, "I'm gonna bring the unholy trinity," and I was all like, okay, so then that means you're gonna get like buried, and then you're gonna come back and you're gonna be a different Taker, and then you're gonna get buried again, you're gonna come back, you're gonna be a different Taker, and
right
then you're
before
gonna actually
Easter.
actually bury AJ after that. Like, that's what I thought was gonna happen. So he's gonna get shoved into the coffin, or not the coffin, but the grave, like three times, and just come back each time and just be like, "No, kid, I ain't done with you yet. I'm taking you out." And like, now keep in mind the dialogue throughout the whole thing, improv, was absolutely phenomenal and amazing. It's just like AJ begging, "Please don't bury me, Undertaker. Please don't bury me." Like, you're a good kid. You're a good kid. And then just like how he just like turns away and just like boots him right in there. And I was all like, all right, okay. I mean, like, the match as a whole is still hilarious. Undertaker committed 2 murders. We have one dude who's probably mortally wounded. Whatever happened to the Druids, I don't know. But like, if there was one critical thing about it, it's like that one thing I felt was like missing is like we had this opportunity to go through like the entire career of a character.
But we had that for the other
I know,
which we'll talk about later.
It's like literally that match gave me what the Boneyard match. Like, I was like, oh man, this is like the Boneyard match is gonna be like. And then the Firefly Funhouse was all like, by the way, did you want some meta shit? Did you want to get on that meta drug that we've been passing around?
So bad.
But Ellie,
so good.
Ellie talked about how the cinematic matches, which, you know, obviously Matt Hardy helped pioneer this stuff, and even then I'm like, give it to me straight to my veins. Not just Matt Hardy, even Lucha Underground, where just like, this guy is a demon from hell, and then the commentator's like, oh, this guy's a demon from hell, and then he uses magic to not die.
This
is
guy
amazing.
Turns into a dragon.
Yes,
he's actually
one of the
literally
wrestlers.
a dragon.
This one wrestler is a time travel, and then they had a nunchuck fight on an episode, and I lost it. And the point I wanted to say with the Boneyard match was they had the most extra way of stopping AJ Styles from running away. What does the Undertaker do? Fire magic. Why? Who had the Undertaker's logo on laser? Fuck it.
I assumed that was magic too.
I was like the moment his like logo just like lasered onto the bar, and I was all like, you know what? This is a good match. I love this. This is a good match.
And the symbolism of him driving away from that logo as if he was leaving his past behind him.
And like everybody in the call was eating it up, except for like Ken. And Ken was like, I like the House of Horrors match better. And we were like, are you nuts?
Troll.
What? How could you?
Well, Kevin's always had it. Kevin's always had a bit of a contrarian part of him, but that's his. But Ellie touched on this earlier, and I want to get back to it. I don't know if it was an unintended genius about the match, was that because it's filmed, you don't get to see Undertaker look tired. Him and AJ could just have a water break.
They could have literally had an hour straight match. I would have watched the whole thing if it was that compelling. Like literally. I wouldn't question on the fact that they're not that tired, that they're selling the fact that they are tired. I would eat that up on a buffet consistently.
You put Taker in a match against anyone in like Saudi Arabia or WrestleMania or whatever, and it pretty much has to be a super short, very careful squash. Okay, so like not a cinematic title match or grudge match even, but the Goldberg versus Braun Strowman match, if you can call it a match.
It was two dudes who had cheat codes to spam their finishers for all of 5 minutes. We saw 4 spears, 5 power slams, and Braun Strowman won.
So it's hilarious.
Jinx.
I said it in my wrestling homework, and I read it aloud to Ryan, my husband, and he thought it was really funny the way I described it. So I'm just going to verbatim say what I said before. But when you learn wrestling, the scoop slam or power slam is like one of the very first things you learn, because it's really easy to protect somebody if they can't take their own bump. So if you're not good at bumping, your trainer, if you can just post, can still give you the move and it'll be safe and it's fine. But Braun Strowman gave Goldberg just the most gentle, loving, like caress of a power slam after power slam. And I was like, oh man, this is kind of special in that this is the only way Braun Strowman will ever get to wrestle somebody who he probably has looked up to his entire life and held up as a hero, or inspiration. And how cool is that? But also just how sad is it that that's how he won his first major title in the company? Like, three consecutive what you're saying is basic moves.
So what you're saying is Braun Strowman didn't knock out Goldberg. He just cradled him so gently that he fell asleep for 3 seconds.
You can tell that his neck was protected. And like, I'm confident that Goldberg could have taken those bumps just fine on his own. Like if there was, he was posting enough, he was turning fast enough, it was all fine. Landed square on his back. They were great, good form. But like, yeah, it was like less than 3 minutes of gentle moves. And like, okay, granted, spears, I have an interesting history with spears. I have taken 1 spear in my life. It did not end well. I was out for over a month with a bruised rib because I did not bump enough on my own. But
spears are dangerous.
They are. I mean, they're essentially football tackles with none of the padding, right? So,
yes.
But giving a spear is not as dangerous. You basically just run into somebody and then they take their bump. If they're doing it right, then they take their bump. If they're not doing it right, they go to the hospital.
Or if they're doing it too right, they're still going to the hospital. AJ?
Anyway, but giving a spear is not that dangerous. So it was like, I can see why they did that the way they did it. But like now, having seen the Boneyard match, I'm like, that was it? That's your main event? Why couldn't you have done that for this as well? Because that could have been a total excellent banger of a match or a story.
Oh my God. Braun Strowman like crashes to a wall or something, starts beating up Goldberg security dudes.
Yeah. It could have been way more psychology. I mean, granted, there was no build for this at all because it was supposed to be Roman Reigns and blah, 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 meta. But like, if they'd spent like a day, half a day, 2 hours filming something and then cut it together, we never would have known. So why give us this like raspberry match?
Yeah, I think this really shows one of the strengths of the Boneyard match. I mean, number one, it's Taker. So Taker has the most gimmicks. Like it would be silly if we saw Heath Slater do magic Oh my god, I want to see that now.
Like that should be how Heath Slater wins whatever title he's going to win, because he's the last guy. He's the last guy in 3MB who deserves a world title run. Tell me I'm wrong.
Let me change it. It would be silly
push 2020
to see Drew McIntyre do magic. But on the flip side, the Boneyard match, whenever it looked like the Taker we saw there. The way I see it is that is the Taker in my mind's eye, right? How I describe the Taker, undead wizard.
Yes.
Undead wizard, right? Who is just big, intimidating force. As much as you could talk him up, he's still going to just be a normal human in wrestling, because that's what they all are. But in Boneyard match, he actually got to beat the undead wizard and got to do undead wizard things. And that's what really sits with me, is this in my head, you know how in our head everything's way more amazing than what it is in real life. It's how I want to see wrestling.
Sorry, you first.
And you said it before before the call. Don't want to take credit for it, but it felt anime.
Yeah, it
anime.
It really feels anime, and I mean, I'll get to that in a second. But like, you bring up a great point. Name the last time the Undertaker did something that felt like magic, that truly felt like magic. Because the only thing I can think of going back is his entrance when he was going to face Randy Orton at WrestleMania, where they pulled him. And he's just standing there like a statue, and they pull him on this thing all the way to the ring. So it looks like he's just like gliding to the ring. Like he's still standing in one place. There's smoke on the ground, so you can't see that they're pulling him that way. And that, like, if you watch that back, it still looks good. It still looks like he's just like, no, I'm coming slowly. And it's agonizing. And when I get there, I'm going to kill you. And I'm like, holy crap, this is awesome. But like, yeah, the real thing that I love about these cinematic matches, like Hardy versus Wyatt, Hardy versus Hardy, Final Deletion, the Boneyard match, the Firefly Funhouse, which we're about to get to, is like, what I love about them is that they feel like anime. And I love anime. Like,
I think we're in good company.
We're the Cosplay Wrestling Federation, so
like, all of that is just great. It's all good stuff. And the reason why it works so well, and why, like, the three of us and some of the people in CWF, maybe all the people in CWF who watched this stuff and enjoyed it, we can buy into that because that's the kind of shit we dig. Like, that's the stuff that, like, when it's pushed forward, we're all like, I mean, I was full on matches, but I'm not full on cinematics. Let me just dive in. Like, it's all really well put. When wrestling is good, it is amazing. It is phenomenal to rip off a video. When it's bad, you can completely see it. Both of these things were so good that, like, after the Boneyard match was over, I'm all like, I don't even think the Firefly Funhouse is going to be good. I just don't understand how it can be as good as that. Oh man, I was so glad I was proven wrong. I was happy with the journey I was taken on with that match, with Bray, with Cena. I was just so happy.
Can we talk about the
funny though?
Oh,
sorry. No, go on, G.
No, you go first. You go first, please.
So being a trainee and meeting a ton of indie wrestlers all the time, I'm very connected to that whole scene on Facebook, and it's so interesting how people on Twitter and Facebook are so divided. You either loved it or you hated it. And when I talk to the people who hated it and I ask them what they hated about it, they say it didn't seem realistic, which I'm like, really? That's your criticism? Okay. They say that it wasn't wrestling, which I'm like, okay, again, like, if a promo in an empty arena is wrestling, then this is wrestling. And And they said that it was just like too campy and they didn't understand. But like to me, it felt like the natural modern progression of where wrestling started at carnies and stuff. It fully lets you suspend your disbelief. It wasn't like there were a bunch of hokey 3D effects or something superimposed on the top of it. It was just like practical effects. Bunch of guys slugging at each other in a graveyard. Like fabulous.
To drum up my point, and
first off,
okay, you first.
Full discretion. The three of us love the cheese. We love Drag Race.
God, yes.
We love anime. We love cosplay. We are dripping in the cheese. So maybe we're biased.
We are a bit
but with
nacho.
that said,
we're a bit fondue.
With that said, not to paint with a broad brush, but those type of people would be like, I'm sorry, I only like my 5-star Tokyo Dome matches that starts off with 2 wrist locks and then maybe a series of near fall pins and a standoff, and there has to be at least 3 fighting spirit spots.
All right, I got to point out one thing that Daniel said in chat. It's not realistic. Watch any ladder match ever, including the Mania ladder match. All wrestlers need to spam R1 to get to the top of the ladder.
So that's another thing. All of the people that I was just referencing who said that this was bad, and also some who said it was good, everybody I've talked to seems to love that ladder match, and I do not get it. I love those guys. I love the athleticism. I love the action, but like, it was a tag title defense with only one member of each tag team with ladders, and like they all sat there at the top of the ladder for like a full 5 seconds with no crowd noise, no like. So, how do you suspend your disbelief? It's right there in front of you. Grab the damn thing.
The one part of that match that is great, that was genius, that was brilliant, was the moment that John Morrison takes his hands off the thing holding the belts, puts them on the belt, and then they push him off so he takes the belts with him and wins.
Yeah.
That moment was fucking brilliant. The
finish was great, but I couldn't believe it after watching different combinations of guys get to the top of the ladder, and then like if this is it, like, you know, they're kind of like pawing at it, and I'm like, no, dude, it's fully within your reach. Don't stop pawing at it. You're not a cat. Just take it down, grab it. Pull it.
I agree.
This is. I'm just sorry. I love the dichotomy right now. Ellie, ladder match. Whoa, tag ladder match. This is not realistic. Boneyard match with magic. Yes, I fully believe this.
No, so that's the thing, right? I couldn't suspend my disbelief, and that's what I didn't like about it. And everybody else was, I guess, invested enough in it. I don't know. Like I had some issues with the Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair match that nobody else seems to have seen either. Like,
I hated that match.
I mean, I told an interesting story, but it completely buried Rhea Ripley, who is...
Thank you.
In my opinion, like, okay, again, super biased in her favor because I am actually literally in love with her. Like, she is the hottest woman on the planet as far as I'm concerned.
I
won't go as far as to say that, but I do think that
Ellie, real quick.
Yes.
Did you please, I will welcome you to go on your tribe, but you ever notice Rhea Ripley has the same smirk that Pete Dunne has?
Yes. I have noticed that.
Please continue.
And I love Charlotte Flair too. Oh yeah, so I love both those women, but I felt like it didn't feel like the, plucky newcomer gets too cocky and faces the consequences like everybody seems to be saying. It's like it felt like she was outclassed. And her strikes, while everybody was saying like, oh, it was a hard-hitting match, I'm like, Rhea Ripley looked like she was trying to slap fight Charlotte Flair off of her. And that's what I saw, because I get criticized for my strikes all the time. I'm good at like 2 things, and everything else I suck at, so I've been practicing a lot. And if I had done that in the ring, my trainers would have chewed me out. Really hit her, really hit him. Like, I don't know. So I had trouble suspending my disbelief on all of Rhea's offense. And then Charlotte looked absolutely brutal targeting her leg, and Rhea sold like a champ. Like, bless her, she tapped, and it really looked like she was in pain that whole time. She was slamming on her leg. Like, she gave a great performance. It was just, I just have so many issues with those.
like,
you heard about the work. You heard about the
like,
visa situation, right?
I have, but even so, I feel like she could have gotten in more offense, at least from the start. You know, like she went straight into her finisher. It was kind of botchy, like it didn't look like it connected very well, which there's really no excuse for showing a camera angle that displays a botch on a pre-recorded show, in my opinion. So I don't know what was up with that.
Yeah.
But anyway, like regardless of whether it was botchy or not, like she started off with that, and you'd think that would mean that she'd continue to be super aggressive, but she just dropped the aggression, and I did not understand that.
So you're telling me, because I didn't know about this, you're telling me the reason why Rhea Ripley lost the NXT Championship is because they're having issues with her visa. Her
visa has expired for work within the U.S. But also, there's a lot of talk about bringing Charlotte Flair to NXT so that she can kind of straddle the brands and be the Finn Balor of the women's division.
Stop! Let's. I feel the same way, and I'm putting a cork in it, not because I don't want to hear it, but because I know if we open this, I
will go psycho.
It's a can of worms for sure.
So
the three of us will be here all night, and I really didn't want to be tonight's episode to be like, let's shit on booking.
Okay, true.
Yes,
I do have to give one match extreme credit for the way that it was done, cinematography wise. That wasn't these two particular matches we're talking about, and that's Edge versus Orton, Last Man Standing.
You know, Edge and Orton is a great contrast because they have all the prep of a cinematic match, but they don't have the cinematic editing. Well, actually, they did.
They did, but they didn't have enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, like
everyone agrees it was too long.
It was a little too long. I liked everything I saw of it.
And the golf clap commentary. Oh my god. Edge is so wow. He's so angry right now. I would really hate to be Orton. Oh my goodness. That's
which is frightening because like if you listen to like some of the other commentary, there's like replays of certain moments from matches where you can just hear Cole shouting twice, and it's like, what the? But that match was so fun.
I will give
like from the moment of having watching a camera guy who's really Randy Orton, who just gets into the ring and RKO's Edge, to how they went backstage and a second camera guy that was back there got tackled and knocked out.
Oh yeah, the camera on its side, perfect. I also love the catharsis. The finish was so cathartic. Like,
dude, the finish
Edge is an all-star actor. That I felt it so much, and like as much as I had felt awkward with all the like lulls where there were a lot of 10 counts, and when all you can hear, because there's no crowd noise, this is another, circling back to the crowd noise issue, when there's no crowd noise, you get really fixated on everybody's grunts and those counts, and so for there to be no commentary and just grunts and counts, I was like, okay, this is going on a little long, but Edge brought me right back in there with that steel chair. Like
that concerto at the end.
That concerto.
Oh.
There's also it's one thing I like to draw attention to is WWE, especially NXT and a little bit of AEW. They do the trope of babyface goes too far with their violence and loses. Happened to Cody, happened to Gargano, happened to Tegan Knox, happened to Gargano again, and Gargano, and Gargano. To see a babyface actually go like, I'm gonna kill this guy, and actually do it was chilling. And Edge
I mean, at the same time, it was cathartic because, to be perfectly honest, as he was getting ready to do that concerto, I was all like, okay, so this is where Randy springs up and RKO's him onto the chair, right? This is where, like, and then when the chair came down, I was like, they did it. They did. The Mad Lads did it. They actually let a babyface just, like, have a heel moment. And we're going to let him get away with it?
Was it a heel moment, though? Because I felt the love.
Oh, I did too. I mean, like
that's what's really the nuance in that concerto is what makes it so epic, in my opinion. Like,
it was really good.
When you talk about WrestleMania moments, not many matches that weren't, the cinematics really felt like they had those moments. Kevin Owens demanding a rematch with no DQs, and that, like, those 3 beats we talked about, maybe 4 if you want to include Randy Orton stringing Edge up in that workout device. That was pretty intense too. I was like, did not know you were into that, Mr. Orton. Thank you. Good to know. But yeah, it's a moment. It's one that I'm going to be talking about for a long time.
That's why facial expressions are so important in wrestling, and which is one of the reasons why in the CWF, if you have a blank face, we will call you out in the best way possible.
It's also why our masked competitors have an interesting edge / hurdle to overcome.
Handicap. Mm-hmm. But I want to go back to the AJ match. One thing that did kind of do a disservice to it wasn't something that happened in the Boneyard match. I mean, Boneyard match. I want to talk about Boneyard match. Not something that happened in the match, but it was happening day 2, where they replay the Boneyard match, and it ends with AJ's hand up here, and then the commentary is all still happy-go-lucky. Wow, a lot of memorable things happened last night. What? It was like, yo, this dude died. Undertaker
AJ
committed
Styles is
murder.
Literally dead. On his Wikipedia, it was changed that he was dead the day of the Boneyard match. It probably is still there.
And that line of WWE figures where everybody is a zombie, suddenly the AJ Styles one is canon.
So I kind of wish the commentary team would actually kind of put that over at the very least of, oh shoot, I hope AJ Styles got some medical attention. You don't even have to say he's dead, but not like, whoo-wee, that was
when will we see him again?
Yeah, like, oh my god, I hope Gallows and Anderson could pull him out. Oh no, or just something. But this like zippity doodah, like jolly gee.
I just, some of that just honestly baffled me. And it was just like, oh, this is completely out of place and not in good taste. I mean, I know they have to do this, but like, don't show anything from that match in regards to, man, this was so awesome.
Because like before, when they had buried alive matches, it was always Taker that died, and Taker that got buried. And so, but Taker getting buried, like, oh, he's the dead man, he'll come back. And in the rare times when someone else gets buried, at least it's like, well, they're in an arena, so paramedics would come in and dig them out. It's like a symbolic burial. No, this was like a dead burial.
I still have hope. I have hope because I hope that WWE pulls some more indie bullshit and that Styles is off the air for several weeks, and when he comes back, he's interrupting somebody's promo. He's covered head to toe in dirt and dried blood, and he hasn't shaved for a week, and he's like skinnier, and he's got bags under his eyes, and he walks in there and he goes, none of you could have given me a ride. None of you went and looked for me. This is bullshit. And like, just roll with it.
I really would love to see that
Daniel,
in like a couple weeks' time.
Daniel writes, AJ Styles is dead. Luke Gallows was burned. Alan Anderson has a broken spine.
Accurate.
And the Druids are gone.
And the Druids just vanished.
Let's go ahead and talk about. So, I was in the call with my fiance Jill, but I dropped into the CWF call, and after the Boneyard match, the next question we all had was, please, not question, request was, please, WWE make something half as good for the Funhouse match. And we were all speculating. Like I said that I would want Cena to like and Bray Wyatt to do some Looney Tunes shit with some cartoon props, like a 2-ton anvil. I was thinking that other people were thinking there would be like various incarnations of John Cena that he has to fight. The Funhouse gave me nothing that I wanted, but give me everything that I needed.
Oh yeah.
Just
I was the person in the call who was like, I can't tell you what's going to happen tomorrow, but I know for a fact if they do it right, it's going to be everything that my mind's eye ever wanted. And man, was it ever.
I literally watched the whole thing standing up because when it was starting, I was standing up because I just gone out of the room to like get something to drink and a snack, and I couldn't sit down because I was so fixated on the screen. I was completely captivated, and yeah, oh man,
the editing the editing team, number one. Just there were just so many things that just put me at a mental unease. The fact that John Cena poofed into the Funhouse. He didn't like walk into it. He just poofed. When he opens up the black room and there's the Vince McMahon puppet going, "You got the ruthless aggression," and just
that's some good shit.
Yeah, some good shit.
I love that.
Jill said it. Jill said, well, Jill and the rest, it was Evangelion. It was episode 25, 26 of Evangelion.
Full on Hideaki Anno, mental breakdown.
So, like, I mean, like, I like the way that you put it, and that John Cena got pulled into his palace. Like,
Persona 5.
He literally gets pulled into his own palace, and that's what we're watching. I think like my favorite thing out of like the whole cartoon hokiness of it, and just like there's that sign, like when we first get a glimpse of the Funhouse and it's Bray in there, we haven't teleported John Cena yet. There's that colorful cardboard sign that says door, "Abandon hope, ye who
leave here."
Yeah. And I'm just like, they made a colorful sign of abandoned hope. Oh, we're in the right place tonight, folks. Like, I was just like, oh, this is happening. We're going in. And it didn't disappoint. The SmackDown Big Fist that was just sitting in the background. I was all like, oh my God, they brought the fist out of the garage.
There's so many little tiny visual details that I'm sure I didn't recognize the fist until it was pointed out to me. Because I didn't watch SmackDown during the era of the fist, and I haven't gone back and watched much from it. But like, yeah, it just, you can tell every single detail was carefully crafted to tell exactly the right story. And all of this was planted, days and weeks ago through promos and video packages. So it's just the best long-term storytelling I've seen in a while.
I mean, the John Cena promo the night before WrestleMania, which aired the night
I'm
before.
going to overexpose and destroy the most.
Yeah. And how all of that is him talking about Bray, but it's really like Bray speaking through him, talking about John.
I was literally screaming when I heard that the first time. I was like, oh, come on, John Cena. You're just talking about yourself now. Like, I thought, if somebody said that to me in a CWF context, like, how would I flip it on them? And yeah, no, it's absolutely exactly what they planned for it. When that came back, I started crying.
They literally went through every iteration of John Cena, from ruthless aggression to the point where the only thing about him was ruthless aggression, which is why he kept spamming it like over. Like, literally, it's a match, quotation marks. Remember, this is a story. It's a story that you literally can watch start to finish each time and find something different about it. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of playing games like Majora's Mask and shit like that.
A fun context was Robbie watched this was his first WrestleMania watching it. Yep. So he has none of the wrestling history, and he was able to piece it
through
together.
context clues, he was able to pick up like a bunch of the stuff that was going on because of like the like sort of flashbacks and sort of like clip-ins that they were showing, like where it was like John standing in front of Kurt. You know, he had the rest of us in the call, like when he came out as prototype John Cena, we were just like, oh my god, like we were all flipping.
Look at his gear, look at his hair.
And they were just like straight going for it. And I mean, like when they did Thugonomics John Cena, where he was wearing Yankees, like that's, by the way, credit to them for pulling out like the Yankees colors on him, considering he's from Boston and he's a Red Sox fan.
I don't know anything about that kind of sports.
Okay,
but
so like
even I know that's a big deal.
The only reason why they do that currently is because there was during the CM Punk Cena feud, he literally looked at John and said, "You're not the Boston Red Sox, you're the New York Yankees," and John just like straight up bitch slaps him, and he like Punk gets out of the ring and then shouts at Nick, Vince, and John, who were both still in it because it was like a contract signing, and he goes, "You might, you're Steinbrenner, and you might as well be Jeter." And I mean, like, I'm a Yankees fan. But like the moment he said that, I was all like,
Bird.
I wish I there was a Twitter thread someone made that explained the meta story of the Firefly Funhouse, and just the one question I keep asking myself in this is, how much control did John Cena have over himself? And the reason why I ask is there's this narrative moment, there's this narrative switch where he's the doctor of thugonomics and he says he can only speak in rhyme, but it kind of implies that he has full control over his actions. And when Bray Wyatt says you're a bully and you use other people's jokes and you turn other people's weaknesses and you turn them into jokes, and Cena, there's this brief pause and then he stops and then he like scowls up and he says another insult. And I was like, was that Cena like contemplating maybe he should pull back and then he doubles down, or was he forced to do that? And I ask myself this. Yeah, I'm asking myself the emotional implications of a freaking wrestling match.
I had an interpretation on first watch of that, actually, in the opposite direction. I thought that, you know, all the interactions Cena was having with his puppets and everything, I thought that the second Cena entered the funhouse, he became one of Wyatt's puppets, and that he was puppeting him through his past as a way of making him re-experience all of his fears and insecurities over his career, his failed marriage, the Thugonomics character who was, you know, mighty stereotypical and super cringy through today's eyes to a lot of people. You know, his bodybuilding career, the fact that he never turned heel, even though he sort of acts like a heel all the time when he buries the newer talent. And there was that moment where he was like, gritting his teeth and like it looked like he was trying to break out of chains. And I interpreted that as Cena mentally trying to loose Wyatt's control over him and fight back because he didn't like what he was seeing or experiencing. But that's just my 2 cents. Hot take.
The fact that we could have a philosophical discussion about a wrestling match on WrestleMania is nobody goes, hey guys, let me tell you about my theological rating of Okada versus Omega. Usually when we talk about it, he did a move, it looked good, then some guy got pinned, yeah. But now we're like, you know,
wrestling psychology in Japan's real different, but it's good in different ways.
So like one of the things that I want to bring up is, while we're talking about the psychology of things, it's like the cinematic experience of a match offers the ability to put the match, quotation marks, on the back burner and bring the psychology with in ring and out ring to full front view. And I think that's the biggest reason why I enjoy stuff like this, is because we're not looking at it from a match perspective of, damn, that spot was really awesome. I like that because it's all psychology based. It's all things that make you think about what you're watching to a extent of, how do I feel about this? What am I seeing here? What's the story I'm taking in versus like, damn, dude, that was a sweet-ass moonsault off the top rope. Perfect form. I cannot believe 5 stars. Gotta rate it.
Rainmaker after Rainmaker.
And I mean,
you see, when he does 2 Rainmakers, it shows that Kenny Omega is so tough that Okada has to do his strongest move twice. It's like, just shows that he's really tough.
So, and like the thing about it is the reason why we talked about why I brought up the match and the actual match in the first place, the last man standing match, is because that is a match that blends perfectly what in-ring psychology should be and how it should be used in wrestling. And I mean, I could talk about the Seth Rollins Kevin Owens match as well in this almost the same regard, because that match was amazing. It could have done better with a crowd, sure, because like imagine a crowd popping when Owens grabs the mic and just calls Seth a bitch and a coward for running away and saying, this is not how you're going to win a match. Get your ass back in here and let's do it in no DQ. Come on, let's go. Let's go.
God.
Like, that would have been perfect.
The man killed himself with that
match for me.
That the man basically killed himself bumping off the logo setup for nobody in the room. Can you imagine the pop that would have gotten? Oh my god.
To be fair, if there's like Kevin Owens is one of like 5 wrestlers on the planet who benefits from an empty arena, because now you could hear him jaw jack the entire match. He could.
And I mean, I gotta give it to Daniel, who's in chat saying, like, after rewatching, he had a choice. He had a choice leading up to each choice. He went back and insulted Bray. He swung at Bray with the chair. He attacked an unprovoked Bray Bischoff. To compare the Firefly to the Boneyard you could show anyone and they probably say, yeah, that was badass. Whereas the Firefly match was so psychological and is meant as a long-term payoff for fans. And it's just like, yeah, that's exactly the reason why I like the Firefly Funhouse, is because I followed John Cena throughout his whole freaking career. And am I upset that he never turned heel after he became super babyface? A little bit. Do I hate the fact that he constantly buried new talent, including the Nexus, just by being himself? Yes. Do I think that, like, everything that that's the reason why he lost 6 SummerSlams in a row. Let's be real. But do I think that, like, all of the storytelling elements were so perfectly laid, especially with the fact that Bray lost to him, 6 years ago? I'm still upset about that. I'm livid that Bray lost that feud. That's literally what Rambling Rabbit was saying. Was like, you want to beat John Cena because he literally ruined your career.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, yes.
And you actually bring up an interesting point, which was when I was looking back on it, I realized that this kind of was Cena working heel.
Yeah.
When you realize that he was saying things to bury Bray Wyatt that in fact applied to himself, and that he made the choice to use the chair. And yeah, I mean, Bray Wyatt specifically called him a bully, and then Cena bullied him. Like, that was obvious. And I don't know about you guys, but personally, I was rooting for Wyatt. I wanted to see what he had in store. It felt like justice when he won.
So here's the question.
Sorry.
Here's the big question. When Cena swung the chair at Bray, right? Was he doing it out of self-preservation, like to get out of the dream? Or was he doing it to right a wrong?
That's a good question. I can't answer that one at this current moment.
But
I will.
That we are having this question.
Hold on. I did want to answer Ellie's question though, because she she sort of posed the question of, were you rooting for Wyatt? I will tell you right now, I'm always rooting for him. He is literally my favorite modern WWE wrestler because he's different. He's amazing. He's a good talker. He's a character that I can just either, I mean, like, yeah, sure, okay, it's creepy and it's weird, but it's like, it's psycho in the fun way. It makes you want to root for him. He should be a face that does heel things. That's how he should be presented. And in a way, that's how they've presented him because they're shoehorned, in my opinion, stuck into doing so. And it's perfect. Think about everything he's done. He's hurt who? Seth. He's hurt. Who are the other people he's faced in the past? I can't.
Balor.
Daniel
Balor.
Bryan.
Daniel.
Finn Balor.
He healed Daniel. He didn't hurt Daniel.
Oh.
Remember, he's got the gloves that say hurt and heal, and the people he's hurt have gone to being a heel, and the people he's healed have gone to being back to what either like they were before this, or they've become something more. In the case of Daniel, he's kind of become the mix of this environmental preservation and the American Dragon, and it's great to have him. Whereas like Finn went back to NXT and was like, fuck it, I'm the prince now. I'm beating everybody.
And The Miz turned heel after that, too.
Yeah, and The Miz turned heel after that. And The Miz wasn't even on his list. Like, literally, the cool thing about Bray's character arc currently is that he's going from dude to dude to dude that have all wronged him. And it has to end. It has to end with Roman. That's the only logical conclusion, is it ends with Roman. And he either loses to Roman and is still over because of it, or he beats Roman and he turns Roman heel.
I mean, he's turned Cena heel, right? Like, next time we see John Cena, who knows what we're going to see, right?
Oh, wait up.
Daniel's question is my answer. Like, I literally just stated my answer.
So who do you want to see Bray Wyatt in the Firefly Fun House next?
Ooh.
Roman. I'm going to... Ian convinced me. Also, end of the Firefly Fun House. Titus...
I mean, I
have no idea what
say Titus, just because I like having him on TV. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, you know, I haven't followed Bray Wyatt's career closely enough. Basically until he teamed with Matt Hardy, because that was around when I started. Well, I watched them in their rivalry first, and I was like, who is this guy? I don't get it. Like, for a really long time, I did not get it. But I mean, now I love him, obviously, but
and go back and dig up some of his old stuff when he was working in NXT, and his you'll find this on YouTube easily. Go search when he debuted on Raw, because that vignette is amazing. It's old Bray Wyatt. It's downright perfect. It's like it was the shakeup that things needed to happen, and I was so excited to see him move up to the main roster. And then they didn't know what to do with him.
Well, if the trend's continuing, it's not so much a like long-term rivalry or anything I particularly want to see out of him. But I'd love to see him take someone like Mustafa Ali. Are they just calling him Ali now? They're just calling him Ali.
Do you know where Ali is at right now? Have you seen the theories about Ali? What he's responsible for?
I have heard people theorize that he might have been the one who's been sending those glitches and exposing the Sonya Deville
that's
plot.
It. Because see his symbol, and you see the truth will set you free, and it's also conspicuously blue.
Yes.
But so to take a character like his, who is such a babyface, does not cover it with him. Ali is the epitome of good. He is a cinnamon roll. He is just a lovely person. And his vignettes that he was doing where he cured alcoholism or whatever is a little silly, but he's trying to start a conversation and spread messages of positivity, and he's a symbol of hope. And so to see Bray Wyatt face him, I almost feel like it would be a face-on-face match, and I feel like it would offer Wyatt some interesting psychology opportunities. Now that he's the more senior wrestler, how would that dynamic play out. So maybe this is a
Oh, that's a
storyline for
good
after he faces
one.
Roman.
That's
So
a real because Ali is pretty much in like he's presented in fandom and in his personal life, the way we view him, he's almost viewed as incorruptible. Like this guy, I used to joke that Mustafa Ali radiates so much goodness that even when he was injured, it transferred to Kofi Kingston and then made him a champion.
That is true.
So the interesting thing about in like Ali and like his like current wave through gimmicks is like that whole shtick where he was like healing people and doing that. It's the exact opposite of a gimmick that they tried to do years ago with Sean O'Hare, I believe it is, the Devil's Advocate. Which, if you ever look up these promos, it's like he's telling you to cheat on your wife. He's telling you to do things that like normal people wouldn't do. And they're fascinating promos. They're definitely coming from a heel. And they're watch material in the sense of like you should watch to understand the psychology of what it is, because these are interesting vignettes. The character ended up going nowhere, unfortunately, but they're fascinating.
What an interesting concept.
It's just like, it's interesting because he is this bad guy who's telling you to do bad things, whereas Ali is he is literally the exact opposite end of the spectrum of like the cinnamon roll, the perfect good boy. Like, there is no one gooder than Ali. There really isn't. And I love him for it. Also, can we stop taking away people's names?
Murphy, Ali, Andrade.
There was another one that was recent that I can't remember what it was, and I was just like, okay, this has to stop. Yeah,
I agree.
You
can't just make everybody a one-name person. It's not a thing.
Can't. The Firefly Funhouse was amazing.
It was.
And if you don't agree, fight me in the comments.
You know,
I'm worrying about saying "fight me" to people who could actually wrestle me, though. I gotta be careful with the "fight me" invitation.
Yeah, right.
For me, though, one thing that I like to just about that subject of names, I really like having Mustafa Ali be Mustafa Ali. Can you guys hear me? I'm having big, weird computer problems, by the way.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Perfect.
I can't.
Oh,
you can't hear him?
I can't. I don't know what happened.
I can hear him just fine.
Can our viewers hear him? That's the important part.
I would hope so. Viewers, can you guys hear G?
Okay, things slow down.
Oh, now I can hear you. Excellent. I don't know what happened there. Maybe I was transported to the funhouse.
Okay. Our viewers can hear G. Okay.
Okay, but one thing I really liked about Mustafa Ali, that name, is it forces the viewer to confront his background, like his name. He's not Ali. Yep. He is Mustafa Ali. He is like hardcore Muslim, and that Mustafa just like shoves it in your face.
Yep.
Which is awesome.
Love it.
And I think it's so. Did you know that? Did you know what his indie name was in the past?
No.
Prince Ali.
Oh, yes. He should cosplay.
He probably has.
Yeah. Side note: they did a 24 on Mustafa Ali, which is great. Jill and I love Mustafa Ali. We love him so much that when we went to WrestleMania and we're walking down all the booths to meet the wrestlers, you know, I see Big Show. We see Mojo Riley. Then I see Mustafa Ali's sign, and we book it. I was like the fifth person there. Not too many people were there. F it. It was like Mustafa Ali. And I'm shaking his hand. It's like when you win, I'm gonna cry because you're the amazing Mustafa.
Oh man.
He didn't, but they did a 24 episode on him. And they talked about how he had a stereotypical like Middle Eastern terrorist gimmick, and then one of the kids was afraid of him, and then at that moment he said, "That's it, no more." At that point on, I'm not doing this anymore.
No.
Sorry. He's so good. Such a good boy. He freaking fasted and wrestled.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of religious observances and holidays, Chag Sameach to all of our Jewish listeners. Happy Passover.
Happy Passover. Fun fact. There's a good sizable portion in the CWF is Jewish, and we literally had a conversation where they all found each other. They all really like, oh shit, yo shit, you're Jewish. Hey guys, I'm Jewish.
And we all went tribe.
The
Anyway,
Jewish
Passover's a little weird this year.
I've only heard through second-hand accounts. I'm not even gonna pretend I have all the pieces. I'm gonna just take your word for it.
Well, usually it's a time of gathering, so to be so far away from everyone is kind of frustrating. But now I want to host a CWF Seder so that I can tell you all about the story of Passover while getting super, super drunk, because you have to drink at least 4 glasses of wine.
Oh my god. There are at
Or
least
grape juice.
there are at least
Good.
yes.
I can do the grape juice. I won't do the wine. I don't drink.
There would be at least 5 person in that call if you did a CWF Seder.
Oh, remote Seder. That's ambitious. I could try. It lasts a week, so we'll be in touch.
that's
Maybe we'll stream it.
I'm open to it. If forget WWD, did you ever see the Drew Gulak segment where he played Dreidel with Shinsuke Nakamura and a bunch of others?
No.
First off, Drew Gulak is Jewish.
Good Jewish boy. That doesn't
That
surprise
was a good
me
match.
at all.
That was a good match. Gulak versus Cesaro.
Short but sweet. I mean, I
Another man who
love
lost his voice.
Cesaro, but I mean, he could have a great match with anybody. But yeah, short and
He
sweet.
could. It's the reason why he should be a champion.
Cesaro?
Yes.
Couldn't agree more. He retired one of my favorites too.
William Regal.
Regal.
I know.
I stole his finisher. That's how much I love him. Anyway.
Oh, now that's William Regal is an amazing example of a wrestler that gets a lot of mileage out of a very simple moveset. I didn't want to say limited moveset. Simple moveset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, classic catch wrestling. Really good.
But let's go back to these 2 matches
Yes.
of Funhouse. If with the Funhouse match being like I said, it's Evangelion. And the Boneyard match is kind of like your classic shonen brawl. And
Naruto versus Sasuke.
Yeah, but I love both of them because they cannot exist in real life. You cannot do this, or else John Cena would be like running back to the arena and then running forward and new stuff. But it just felt so different, and I love it.
I think that as long as we're in this situation and the creative limits of basically everyone anywhere in or out of wrestling are being pushed to the extent that they are now, like there's not only a place for this and a demand for this, but this opens up, like the success of this has opened up endless possibilities for the art form to expand under these circumstances. Like this is how these major promotions can weather the storm, as long as they're allowed to have meetings, as long as they're allowed to get in the ring together or go out into a field or dive in a pool or whatever's coming next. Like, can't wait to see what they come up with.
I mean, like, there's a vignette for one of I think his name's Lance Archer. I follow AEW, but I don't. You know the vignette I'm talking about, though, where he's like fighting
that was filmed in Darby Allin's backyard.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
and it was produced by him too.
Oh,
I thought
that
you
makes
would
a lot of
know.
sense.
You of all people, Darby Allin.
I mean, yeah, Darby Allin's my favorite wrestler in AEW. By the way, I have to ask you that question later. I feel like they could do, if the way things are projected to go, which I really don't want them to, and that's my personal opinion, if it's going to be Cody versus Lance at the end of this tournament bracket thing that they're doing, my bracket's already shot to crap, by the way. Then do a match in the woods somewhere, because that would be awesome. And then have Jake the Snake Roberts sitting in that rocking chair smoking a cigar like he was in the vignette and make him look badass. That would be awesome as hell. There's so much you could do.
Man, and I want to see Jake Roberts versus Tully Blanchard for some stuff. If they're doing that again, like opens up a whole world of possibilities.
It is
retired wrestlers turn managers.
So like there's a limit to what I want to see, and I'll be perfectly honest, I don't want to see two guys that could croak regardless of circumstances go at it. I don't mean that. Jake is a rundown body, and that's the thing I'm getting at here. Like he is a man who has lived a very long life. He had a very successful career, but I would never ask him to do anything he wasn't comfortable doing.
Sure.
And I'm just sure that I don't feel like he would be comfortable doing something like that.
I know
spine buster to somebody I'll see every day of the week.
Hey, you know who could do that? You know which retired wrestler I would be okay with watching a fight? DDP.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm not saying
first
you guys
off,
gotta kill each other.
DDP. I'm doing DDP yoga again. Thank you, Efren. I got my heart rate to 160 today.
I just got a delivery of dinner.
Oh, well, that's good.
Little cameo by Tommy Wiseau.
Well, don't worry. I think we've talked about everything we needed to talk about tonight. This was amazing. I just want to thank the two of you for being on tonight's episode. I always like talking about the craft of wrestling as opposed to the matches, the outcome, the spots, and the booking, because everybody talks about that, but I really feel that more people should understand the artistry, if you will.
I like that. May I say something?
Yes, both of you can.
So after this, I'm immediately jumping into another call. I'm going to play some Dead by Daylight with my friends in stream. Those are the people that I was doing the fundraiser for. I'm going to drop that link like one more time for the people who weren't here to see it earlier. But we're raising money for Hope from Home, which is a charity fund to help COVID relief. If you want to join, you can donate $5 to make people who are going to play the killer in Dead by Daylight choose what killer they have to play. And there's a bunch of donation incentives, which I'll probably be passing around, yada, yada, yada. But I just wanted to let everybody know about that. And if you ever want to catch me, I'm always streaming at Kaido Ida. So small plug for myself.
I'll also say some closing remarks and a plug if you don't mind.
Of course.
I just want to say again how grateful I am to be on the show again. This has been super fun. Just to see your guys' faces, hear your voices and everything is always a treat, especially right now when everybody feels so isolated from each other. But, I felt so conflicted on pulling back from CWF to pursue this dream, but you guys have been nothing but supportive and encouraging and loving. And, a lot of our local people have come out to see me at shows when I'm managing and stuff. And I still don't have, now I super don't have a debut date set. Any goals I had are now completely obsolete. Like Matt Hardy deleted them, but,
they're not deleted. They're just on hold.
They're just postponed.
That said, a couple of people at the East Bay Pro Academy and some of the veterans that work with us very closely out of Pacheco Square Garden are working on some content. So if you're starved for indie wrestling, specifically live shows with indie wrestlers, up-and-comers, new people you've never heard of, gimmicks you've never heard of, just watching some really hungry guys go at it with each other to try to tell you a good story. We will be producing a pre-recorded show that we will be selling views for as a fundraiser to help keep the lights on, because while we are able to pay dues, a lot of us have lost our jobs. So I'm fine. And I'm really grateful for that. But some people have lost their jobs and aren't able to pay dues. And of course, we don't have revenue from the shows that we were holding. So we're trying to keep the lights on. And if you can stay tuned, maybe we'll catch it on Twitch together. Just support your local indie wrestlers and indie wrestling feds wherever possible, and go to Facebook and look for East Bay Pro Wrestling if you are interested in seeing what we can come up with given these restrictions on number of people in buildings.
All right. I'm just going to say thank you, Ian. Wish you the best of luck with your stream. Thank you once again, Ellie. It was very nostalgic to have you. And I can speak for the team on this. We love where you're going and where you're at, and we wish you the best of everything. As for me, all I gotta say is
tune into WWW tomorrow.
Wash your hands for 20 seconds and treat all the workers out right now very well because they're keeping us alive.
Yes,
that too. But may I? We haven't had homework in a while on CWF Backstage Pass.
We haven't, but that's mainly because the broadcast has been
a little
weird.
Funky.
Yeah, well, more like Tuesdays have been game sessions and WWW and stuff. So I haven't put homework, but I will. If anything, you can at least tell people to watch something.
I have a match suggestion. All right,
go.
And I suggest that anyone who hasn't seen this or heard of this also look up the promo package that aired before the match. Austin Theory versus David Starr is my favorite match right now. I think I've watched it 3 times in the last week. The rivalry is super fire. Both guys are super talented. Austin Theory he was in WrestleMania, actually. So you probably know who he is. And if you don't know David Starr, you're about to become obsessed with David Starr. So that's my wrestling homework. I encourage everyone to watch that.
My wrestling homework is, if you haven't seen it, you should have by now. Go watch the buy-in for Fyter Fest, or I think it might have been actual Fyter Fest. Go watch the Darby Allin Cody Rhodes match. Watch the vignette beforehand from Darby Allin. It is literally the stuff that keeps me up at night. I tell that to CWF people constantly. Darby Allin is like literally everything I want to be in CWF. I'm dead serious, but myself as well.
All right. Anyway, it's 9:30. We've been in here for quite a while, so let's go ahead and make sure, Ellie, we could all have dinner and you all have fun. Thanks for listening. See you guys later. Oh, what?
Stream. Hang on. This is one more thing. This is Anthony, the disembodied voice of the stream.
Producer son.
We have one last thing we forgot to mention, and that is CWF Draft.
Oh yes, our sponsor for tonight is CWF Draft, still in beta test. I know that Robbie pulled the Sailor Moon card a few days ago. Ian, how's your pulls going? I know that you're a 2-3 star team.
I had the what team did I pull? I can't remember. Hold on, let me check. I think I was running that really skillful tier 1 deck, but I managed to get all the champions after some grinding, so now I'm running tier 0 stuff, and everybody hates me.
But yes, CWF Draft, be on the lookout for it. It's still in closed beta, but remember, even if the game's not out, you could still donate to the gotcha system where you could donate as much money as you want and get nothing in return. It's amazing, simple, amazing system. You don't even get a receipt. That's
now.
Yeah, you don't even get that. It's instant gratification.
Yes, I agree.
I gotta start playing.
It's absolutely fantastic.
But see you later, night, and y'all have a good one.
Absolutely.
Stay healthy, stay safe.
20 seconds.